Hi everyone, we are live. Zaitun, over to you.
Okay, so thank you, Lucy. So my name is Mariam Zaitun. I'm going to be your design instructor for today. And if you missed last time session, today is a continuation of last time session. So in the last session we were discussing about introduction into design and also the principles that govern design, graphic design to be specific. And also today we are continuing with that session, so we are going to uh, dive into elements of design and also just basic logo design and the things that guides logo design, and how principles of design and elements of design can merge and just we make now we start now designing logos. So yeah, basically that's it. So the tech team, you can present the presentation so that we can continue with the sessions today.
Zaitun,
So today
presentation.
we are on session 2 of 101 design. So session 1, as I talked about in our recap, was about introduction and principles of design. Today we are going to talk about um, introduction to elements of design and logo design. So what is elements of design and how does it tie to logo design? So elements of design are fundamental concept in the field of visual design communication. So in so elements of designs are very important. They are like the building blocks of design. So there are principles, those are rules that govern design, and then there are elements, those are blocks that makes up design basically. So they are building blocks that make up design. And also there's logo design, and we'll see how logo design, elements of design, and principles of design tie, so that we can continue with this session. So elements of design are fundamental building blocks of every designer that they are going to use to make a visual composition of a design. So let's say, for example, you are making anything that you're making, let's say, may it be a logo, may it be a business card, may it be a social media post, may it be all of those, they incorporate these elements of design, which include line, shape, form, space, texture, value, and color. So understanding these elements will help you know how to manipulate them, and so that it can allow you to create design that is visually appealing and effective for this, like, just basically an effective design. Yes, so if you understand how the elements of design works, combining them with the principles of design, you can come up with any type of design that is very appealing. Yes. So elements of design. So these are more or less like a pictography of how they look like and how they present. So we'll go deep one by one. The line, the shape, the space, the form, the color. We'll dive into them one by one and see how best you, as a designer or a beginner, can use them. Yes. So we'll start with line. Um, line is the most basic element. So it's usually just a straight line or dotted or a curved, as long as it's from one point to the other. As long as it's not joined, we call it a line. It can be spiral, but it doesn't have to join. Once it's joined, it becomes a shape, one end to the other. But if it's dotted, spiral, if it's zigzag, if it's wavy, those, they're called line. So you can use them whenever you are designing. So it can be curved, it can be thick, it can be thin. So how can you use a line? Line you can use when you are showing direction when you are expressing movement, when you want to show movement visually, when you want to show structure, when you want to show emphasis, when you want to show all of those things. So you use line when it comes to design. Yeah, so that's the first element. So line, you find that in most design that we are working with, line is usually there. So if look at any type of design that is created outside there, if it's a window, there are lines. If it's shoes, there's a line in a shoe. Like, line is used in so many ways. Magazines, there's always line. In books, there's lines. In any type of design, there's always a line, one way or the other. So yeah, so line is one of those elements. And then next, we have shape. Shape is a two-dimensional area defined by lines or boundaries. So shapes, the difference between a shape and a line, shape is usually joined, like from one point to the other. So there's that like, it's there's a point where it's joined. Line, there is no like where it's joined, but a shape is there. So there are different types of shapes. There's organic shapes, there's abstract shapes, and then there's geometric shapes. So abs- organic shapes are naturally occurring. Example, a shape of a leaf, a shape of a mountain, shape of a person, a shape of a, like, just think of those things that naturally occur. So those are free form, like, those are basically organic shapes. And then there's abstract. Abstract are those shapes that you can't really tell what they are, but they're just shapes that they're there. Example, uh like a bubble. A bubble, it's just a weird shape, but those are abstract shapes, so they are there. And then there's geometric shapes. So these are example are squares, triangle, rectangles. You are normal shapes that you think that those the normal shapes that we feel that these are the shapes. Yes, so those are geometric shapes. So these shapes are used when it comes to design. So it depends with what you want to convey. If you are so different shapes bring out different feel in a design. So if I want to, maybe, let's say, for example, I'm designing something for, let's say, nature, I'll go with things, let's say, for example, maybe organic shape, because I want to show nature. If I'm designing for uh let's say, for example, I don't know, like different, let's say, example, cement, I'm going to use a geometric shape, which is a triangle, that is to show stability and strength. If I want to show something that is full and very round, I'll use a geometric shape, which is a circle. So you'll find yourself using shapes when it comes to design, but also use them to convey different feel and different, like, you just want people to feel differently. Yes, so those are basically shapes. So we have line so far and shape. Next, there's space. So, or form, I mean. So, form, a three-dimensional object having depth, with height and width and height. It gives the illusion of mass and volume. So form is like more like if you want to create something like a 3D, like this example of this shape that is here in our visual representation here. So it looks like a white space that has a hole inside, but it's not really that. It's just a white box with a black sphere. Yes, basically that. But it gives that illusion. So form or positive space, it's used to create illusion of three dimensions. Yes, so you'll find yourself, when you want to manipulate such kind of forms, you'll find yourself using such creative ways. Yes. Number The other one is space, negative space. So negative space, the space around or between an element, it can be positive. It can be positive, occupied by object, or negative, empty space, influencing visual hierarchy or balance. So negative space is usually the space that remains when you are designing. Let's say, for example, you've designed an entire thing, but the space that have remained that you did not use, that's the negative space. And it's usually very important because it gives the design a breathing space, it doesn't feel like it's very cluttered. So if example, if you look at this presentation, there's these spaces that have just left the orange bare without touching it, so it makes this our presentation looks very clean, very nice, and very something that is not too busy. So that is negative space. Yeah, so you can always use negative space. If you like minimalistic kind of design, they use a lot of negative space. And if you want your design to be clean, you use a lot of negative space. And if you don't want to for it to look very cluttered and look a bit fresh and stylish, you use a lot of negative space. Yes. Next, we have color. So color is used in every kind of design. So color is one of those elements that you will never miss. You can miss some. So when you're designing, you can find yourself not using line at all or not using shape, but you'll always find yourself using color, or you won't use form, you won't use form, but you'll find yourself using color. Color is very important. So in each and everything, we'll use color. So why is color very important? Because it brings out that design. It communicates emotions. It communicates strongly what that person wants to say. Example, uh, during Valentine's, we use the color red to represent love that we feel for the other person or your significant other. So yes, so color is used for emotions. Color is used for to convey feelings. Color is used for just different places. Example, if you're designing something that has to do with the tech or technology, use color blue. Why? Because blue is one of the most trusted color. If you're designing something that is feminine, use pink. Why? Because it is said that pink is a feminine color. So color is very important. So um, the property of color, the property of light that is reflected or emitted by an object, evoking emotion, creating contrast, and establishing mood. It has a hue, saturation, and value. So the way I said, color is used to evoke emotions, creating contrast, and establishing a mood of something. So there's this like hue. Hue is usually the original version of the color. So another name for color is just basically hue. And then tint. Tint is usually when it's added the hue, it's added a tone of white. It's added white. And shade is usually when hue or the original color is added black. And then tone is usually when the original color is added gray. So it makes hue, tint, shade, and tone. Yes. And then next we have texture. So um, texture, texture is the perceived surface quality of an object, whether real or implied visually. It's add richness and sensory appeal. So let's say, for example, you are designing something and you want it to feel a bit rough. You'll add a very rough feel of a design. So example here from the visual representation that we have here. And if you want something to feel smooth, you'll add a very smooth kind of feel to it. Let's say, for example, leather. You'll not leather, silk. You'll add silk in that design for it to feel smooth. So texture is very important. So how do you want the the person who's going to view your design to feel like, or the person who's going to use your design to feel like when seeing your design? Or yeah, so we use texture. So texture is very important. Next, we have value. Value, the lightness or the darkness of a color or shade, creating contrast, depth, and emphasis. So value is very important. So when I want, let's say, for example, this orange of mine, it looks a bit, it's just plain orange. So if I want one side to look a bit darker, I'll maybe I'll add a bit of black. Like let's say like a gradient. I'm adding gradient. So when you add gradient, it creates that value. So it depends with what you're communicating at that particular time. So when I want it to be a bit lighter, when you want it to be a bit darker. So value is used like that. So yeah. Okay, next. So basically, those are the elements of design. So we have value, 1, texture, 2, color, 3, negative space, 4, positive space, 5, shape, 6, line, 7. So 7 elements of design, which you should, as a beginner of a design, you should know how to work with them in order for your design to be great. So just manipulating this line, elements of design and principles of design, the rules and the elements to make a very appealing design. So how do these elements and principles of design tie to logo design or design basically? So when you know how to use the rules and you know how to use the elements, the building blocks, it becomes very easy, and you know how to use what the software that is used for design. It becomes very easy for you to become a designer beginner. So logo design, on the other hand, is the art and science of creating distinctive graphical mark, emblem, symbol to the symbol used to identify a company, organization, product, uh, or a brand. So logo design is usually the like a symbol of a company. So it can be an emblem, it can be a graphical mark. It's a representation of that company. It's a representation of that organization. It's a representation of that product. It's a representation of that brand. So logo design is usually something that serves when you are not there. Let's say, for example, these big companies that we work with, the most famous one in the country right now, like Safaricom. We all know the logo of Safaricom. We all know the logo of M-Pesa. So you basically know this one. If I see it, this is the logo of M-Pesa. If you're using, let's say, for example, um, things like moisturizers, you are going to use, when you go, you are looking for Vaseline in the aisle at the supermarket, you know very well this is Vaseline because of its logo. You know the Nivea because of its logo. You know those different types of things. If you are going to look for soda, you know Coca-Cola because of its logo. You know Fanta because of its logo. You know all those sodas because of their logo. So logo is very important. It's a representation of that, of your company, of your product, of your organization, of your brand when you are not there. So it has to speak to you the way, or it has to speak the language that you want. Yes. So um, so a well designed logo serves several critical functions. So we are going to look at the functions that a well designed logo serves. So number one, identification. It immediately distinguishes a brand from its competitors. So your logo that is designed really well. Example, in the taxi, can I say taxi? Yes, in the taxi industry. Example, the logo of Uber, there's the logo of Bolt, there's the logo of maybe Faras. You know them differently. So if you see Uber, you know that's Uber. If you see Bolt, you know that's Bolt. Even though they're all competitors, but they come up out differently. They don't have to be the same. And this is a mistake that most beginners, uh, designers make, or most designers make, is that a logo of a particular brand or a particular company or a particular industry has to be, let's say, for example, the one I was giving, a taxi industry. If I am making a logo for a taxi industry, it has to have a car in it. Yeah, most designers do that. If I am making a logo, let's say, for example, of a soda or a sweets, it has to have a soda, like a representation, like let's say, for example, a soda. Maybe I'll put a bubble of showing soda, or some body pouring in a glass, like that. No, it doesn't have to have that. It has to be to speak to about the company. It has to speak about the company. Yes. So it has to distinguish from other competitors. So it's not a must that you put the if it's a hotel at lazima uweke, it's a must you put let's say, for example, fork, knife. No, it's not a must. Example, the best example is Apple. Apple is a they create gadgets, and their logo is just an apple. Example of HP, their logo is just HP. There's no laptop there. Yes. Number two, recognition. It helps consumer remember and recall your brand. Like the example, the way I was saying, talking about Safaricom, the way I was talking about M-Pesa. So whenever you see the logo of M-Pesa, you'll recall that this logo is for M-Pesa. This logo is for Safaricom. So you'll always recall. So logo helps people remember. When they see it, they remember. They always remember this logo belongs to this and this company. Number three, trust and credibility. So trust and credibility. Um, a professional logo instills confidence in a brand. So if you have a beautiful professional logo, it helps people to trust your brand, and also the credibility. So it's literally like holding, like it's speaking volume, it's speaking for you. Yes. So if you have a well designed logo that is professionally done, it creates trust and credibility. Example, there are those logos that are created, we've met them, in maybe you are walking in town, maybe you are browsing on social media, you meet those logo and you are like, you can't, because it is not well made. But if you see a logo that is well made, you'll be like, yes, I can trust these people, because it is neatly, it is professionally made, it looks very nice, it creates confidence and trust in that brand. So whenever you're creating a logo, whenever you see a logo, remember that. Another thing, brand messaging, it can convey brand personality, value, and industry. So every logo, it conveys different places. Like, let's say for example, it conveys that this logo belongs to this kind of industry. Example, what I was saying about color, if I am in the tech industry, most logos are usually blue. So you find that it shows that this one belongs to this certain industry. So example, if you're a designer, you are going to design, we are usually told that you go look for inspiration for that certain industry. If I'm making a logo for maybe hospitality or hotel, I'll go for and look for logos that are from the same industry, and see what kind of logo they make, so that whenever I am making this logo, I don't deviate from it so much that I make a logo, and for hotel, I'm supposed to be creating a logo for hotel, but it looks like a logo for maybe vehicle, something of that sort. So it has to be more or less in the same category and industry. Also, because example, there's a logo I've seen before. I usually think that that logo is for a coffee company, only for me to find out they are an SME company. So you see, those are some of the examples. Yes. um Another one is memorability. A strong logo is easy to remember and recall. So when this when you want to make a logo that is memorable, um it's usually, there are different types of logo. So the different types of logo, when you are making a memorable logo, we are usually told that avoid logo that have long names. Make it more or less like a symbol. Example, like Facebook, its logo is just an F, and you will recall it. When Twitter was there, before it was changed to X, it was just a Twitter bird, and you will recall it. The logo of TikTok is just a very few words, very few, not few words, it's just two words, TikTok, and then you'll always remember it, and it's very memorable. So you see things like that. So make it memorable, avoid like long names, and if you can make a symbol that stands out, and you just put it there, people always remember. And make sure the colors are not you are not using so many colors for it uh to stick to somebody's memory. Yeah. Another one is, the last one is versatility. Your logo should be effective across medium various medium and sizes. So this one applies when, let's say for example, I've created a logo um, for, let's say for example, a coffee shop. After creating that logo for a coffee shop, I want to print this logo. I've created, let's say for example, an apron. I've designed an apron. I've designed a cape. I've designed a mug. I've designed a pen for this coffee shop. This logo needs to fit in each and every environment that I've created. It needs to fit on the pen. It needs to fit on the apron. It needs to fit on the hat. It needs to fit on the mug without losing its effectiveness, or without being pixelated or looking bad. So the logo needs to be versatile. So whenever you are creating that logo, it has to be effective across all medium and sizes. So basically that's how a well designed logo serves critical function. So how do we apply now the elements of design and the principles of design? Now, when you follow the rules of design and you take one building block and the other and put them together, if you use color well, if you use shapes well, if you use negative space well, if you use value well, if you use color, space, form, shape, line well, you'll have a beautiful logo that represent your company or organization very well, or brand altogether. So that's our session for today. Thank you for your time for today. That was your session. If you have any question, the tech team, do you have any questions? You can forward them so that we can finish the session for today.
Thank you, Zaitun. You can check the screen for some of the questions. So I'll stop projecting the presentation and you can see the questions on the screen.
Okay.
Anyway, I think I can just read and you can respond. So one question is, how has your design style evolved over time, especially with exposure to new trends and technologies?
So my design style has evolved because when I started designing, it was way back in 2017, and there were different trends back then. There were different things that we were concentrating on. So with the time, you find that each and every with the design industry, you find that each and every year there's usually new trends, new things that people are following, new styles. So with that, you have to pick and see which one works best for you. So that's how mine has evolved. So I look at different trends, I look at um different trends, I look at how different designers do things, and also what the client wants, and then I apply. Yeah, basically that. And also different fonts and color. Yeah. Another question?
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, the next question is, which element of design do you find often overlooked by beginners, and why is it important?
So beginners usually overlook color. So because if you know how to use color properly, you'll always have a very good design. If you know how to use color properly, you are design. There's this, when when you are designing for a client, most of the time the feedback is usually most of the time the feedback is usually make it pop, and most designers hate that. So if you use color very well, your design will always pop, and the client will most of the time won't tell you that, and most of the time you won't even have as much feedback as you you expect. Like example, if how do you use color properly? Example, so if you have a darker background, the text on top of it should always be light to make it pop. If you are using a lighter background, the text on top of it should always be dark, and that applies with any other thing. When you are using a bigger, when you're using like it's always like that. Example, this orange background that I have here and a very white text, it makes it look so appealing, and it pops. So basically that's that. And this pictorial also I have here, the color is gray on the background, and um the color that is used to write the text is black. So it looks very nice, it's look very clean, and it looks very stylish. So most designers, beginners, don't know how to use color, but if you learn how to use color well, it will always, your design will always look amazing. Yeah. Do you
Thank you
have
for.
any question?
Yeah, there's a question from Brian Arocho. He's asking, "Hi Zaitun, what is the what if the client need is not aligning with what I have learned from class, and also not aligning with the elements of design?"
So one thing is that the client is always right. That one we should always know. The client is always right, because when you are designing, you are not designing for yourself. One, you are designing for the user. Two, you are designing for the client. So one thing you should be doing when you are working with the client is sit with the client first before you start your design. Have your meeting, list down everything that the client require, make sure you agree, and then do at least 1, 2, 3 designs and present it to the client according to what the client wanted, by the list of the client wanted. And then from there you can continue. So you might find that other clients don't agree, let's say for example with the software that you're using, that you're taught in class. They don't like that software. They want you to use other software. They want something exactly like another person did. They want it bigger, like that. So in order for you to stop most of this frustration, just listen to your client and do more or less exactly what the client wants, because you find that most designers, they fall in love with their designs. And once you fall in love with their design, even if the client corrects you, you feel like the client is, it's like they are telling you you're a bad designer, or they are mocking you as a designer. Always listen to the client and do as the client wants, and do not fall in love with your design. Very important, do not fall in love with your design. Yes. Any other question?
Yes, the final question, I don't think there's any other that we have, is what tools and platforms do you personally use and why?
So tools and platforms depends on what I'm designing. So let's say for example, if I'm designing, when I do most of my designs, I design with Illustrator. The reason why I use Illustrator is because it's vector based, and when it comes to my design pixelating, vector based platforms do not, your design won't pixelate, and it makes a very beautiful design, and it's easy to use. When I'm designing for interfaces, I use Figma. When I want to, let's say, for example, edit a photo, I use Photoshop. So you'll find me on Photoshop, you'll find me on Illustrator most of the time, and you'll find me on Figma. Yes. And if you're a good designer, you can use all these 3 platforms to do any of those things. For me, I can always use Illustrator to design interface if I want. If I can use Photoshop, I can use Figma to design any other thing that I can design on Photoshop and Illustrator. So it basically depends on how good you are with those platforms. Yes. And tools, maybe let's say for example, like it depends with what you're designing, like pen tool, marquee tool, uh, text tool. So it depends with what you're designing. Yes.
All right.
So
I think it's a wrap. We don't have any other questions in the comment section. Oh, there's one more. Let me spotlight it. This is Valentine Thiongo. How do you market your services right now? And also, as you're starting out, how did you go about that?
So right now, how do I market my services? I have a LinkedIn platform, so I usually do client projects. After doing my client projects, after doing them and we are done, I will ask my client, can I post this design? I'll post my design on LinkedIn, and so that so that other people might see what I do. uh that is how I market myself. Also word of mouth, and I'll tell people, I'm a designer, I do this and this and this. So most of the time I do word of mouth. I'll tell people in the office I'm looking for clients. I'll tell my friends, if you want a design, I'm here. I'll TikTok also. I have a TikTok page that is dedicated to my design business. So I design and put them there, and then I also go and let's say for example, if you have a business, I'll DM you on TikTok and tell you I design this and this and this. So if you want any design any other time, kindly reach out. So that is how I market myself. And how I used to do it when I was a beginner during when I was beginning, it was just word of mouth. Just, I'm a designer. I'm a designer. Do you have any design work? Do you have any design work before? I get Because I was not so comfortable using social media platform. So with the time, it became more a bit comfortable to use social media platform, but that's why I'm using them right now. But before I was just using word of mouth.
All right. Thank you so much. I don't see any new questions on the comment section, but just before we wrap, I want to spotlight a few people who have commented on the comment section. Thank you, Vincent. I see you, Uko Arusha. Asante sana. Thank you for tuning in. And also, sorry for that. Mary Mwende, thank you so much for being part of this session. Abdulaziz, Stephen, Moses, and Brian, as well as Brian, you asked a question. Yeah, I believe you responded to. And Valentine and Edie, thank you so much. This session will be available on our YouTube channel. And thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you and see you on the next one. And we encourage you to follow our social media platforms. We'll have more webinars coming up. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day.